Hi friends, I'm Joe, and this is episode number 180 of the Decahedron RPG podcast. And today is the first episode for OSR October. If you hear a noise in the background, this is the APA, the Anchorite APA printing day. So my printer is just spewing out pages left and right, and I'm kind of trapped in the basement while it does it. Anyway, for OSR October, I'm using the prompts from the Vagabond GM website. And the prompt for this week is published game, published rule set. And for the modifier, I rolled most wanted, I think it was called, most desired, something like that. So before I go there, I'm going to just say what my favorites are. My favorite OSR game is Tunnel Quest. Good luck finding it, but I think it's a great game. I suspect a lot of people will say that's not real OSR because it's not a recreation of anything D&D. It's a recreation of Tunnels and Trolls, and it's also has some very new school ideas in there. So if you're not going to let me have that one, then maybe I would say Basic Fantasy. And some people would say, no, that one doesn't count because that's not an actual retro clone of a specific version. In which case, I would say White Box, fantastic medieval adventure game. I personally don't believe that an OSR game has to be a retro clone. I think a retro clone is a subset of OSR. I also think that OSR is more of a play style than anything else, than a collection of games. I don't think you have to be one of the old edition D&D flavors to be old school. I think you just have to go for that, like, rulers over rules and the wide open player things, stuff like that. All right, but this episode is the most wanted OSR game. And this is what do I want in an OSR game, because there isn't an exact match out there. And I'm not surprised because what I want is kind of weird. It actually has some new school elements. So let me tell you what I want. And hey, if you know that, hey, Joe, there is this game that's almost exactly what you want, let me know. So let's do it. The first thing that I want is Ascending Armor Class. I think that Ascending Armor Class is just naturally superior to Descending. I can understand why some people prefer Descending because they're used to it. But I think if you came to the hobby brand new with no history, you would say Descending Armor Class is kind of weird. Ascending Armor Class makes more sense. And so that's the first thing I want is Ascending Armor Class. The second thing I want is a very limited number of classes. I want fighters, I want clerics, and I want magic users. And you know what? If you did it right, if you made cleric a type of magic user, I could get away with 2 classes. If you insisted, I could live with druids. It's a special type of cleric. I could see a niche that they fill. I can, if you really twist my arm, I'll allow thieves. I don't think they need to be their own class. I think it just needs to be an ability set. But you know, I'd allow it. But once you're starting to get into like paladins and rangers and all that stuff, I don't see the need and I don't want them. If you want to play a ranger, play a fighter, and play him very outdoorsy. If you want to play a paladin, play a fighter and play him very holy, or play a cleric, because that's the original paladin anyway. In my ideal OSR game, I want race as class. If you're going to do the thing like D&D said and say all races are allowed to be thieves, I can live with that. I'll allow that. But ideally, race is class. I don't see the need to say these races can be these classes. In my ideal game, I want there to be a disadvantage to play a demi-human. And I want that disadvantage to be so severe that most players would rather play humans. I guess you could say that I want humans to have an advantage. I'd be okay if you spun it that way. But I think that Demi-Human's getting a lot of abilities and not nearly enough drawbacks, and I want those drawbacks there. In my ideal game, I want 3 alignments or none. I don't want a 5-point alignment system. I don't want a 9-point alignment system. 3 or none. In my ideal OSR game, I want save and throws based on attributes. You know, save versus strength, save versus wisdom, whatever. Second place, I would accept save and throws in the 3E categories, you know, reflex, fortitude, and willpower. Those are very logical. I like those. Anything that tries to create the original D&D save system, you know, save versus petrification, save versus spell, save versus... No, I hate that system. I always hated it. From the dawn of time, or at least since I started playing, I never liked that there were only 5 categories. And when you come up with this other weird situation, you got to figure out which category it's most like. No. I guess also acceptable is the way White Box does it and a single savings throw. I could live with that. I would probably end up giving you your ability modifier on top of it. So, yeah. The last 3 things I want in my ideal OSR game are all pretty basic. I want only 6-sided hit dice. So fighters only get 6-sided hit dice. Magic users get 6-sided hit dice. Clerics get 6-sided hit dice. And the difference is how often you get a new hit die. You don't get one every level. Fighters do, others don't. The next thing is I want all weapons to do 1d6 of damage. See, those 2 things go together. I don't even think of them as separate things because the logic there is a successful weapon attack is enough to take out a man on average. It does 1d6 damage. A man has 1d6 hit points. See, it made so much sense. The last thing is I want most monsters to only get 1 attack per round. The D&D combat system was supposed to be abstract. It's supposed to represent everything that happens over the course of a round. And when you start saying, well, he gets 2 attacks because he has 2 claws, that takes the abstraction away, and you're now making it more of a blow-by-blow system, which is not supposed to be. Returning to OD&D's combat system for those 3 items. All right, that's it. That is what I want. Does that game exist? I don't think it does. But if you know something that's close, let me know. If you think what I want is really weird and out there, let me know. Thanks for watching and or listening. And until next time, happy gaming, happy life. Bye. In which case, I would say White Box, fantastic medieval adventure game. I personally don't believe in my ideal OSR game. Nope.